screen there, and we'll get started here. Overall, what we want to try to accomplish with the workshops, we're doing this every Friday at 1 Eastern, 10 Pacific. What we want to try to accomplish is to help you guys stay informed of the latest trends and best practices in email marketing, things that we're learning working with our clients that seem to be working or not working, as the case may be. Teach you some proven strategies and tactics that we're seeing work well, and make sure that you're getting the most out of your email marketing. And like I mentioned before, address your specific questions, any challenges that you're running into right now. We definitely want to help with that. Real quick, I'd love to get your input. I'm going to launch a little poll here. So now you should see that. And if you don't mind just letting us know what your primary goal with sending emails is, just so we have a sense for, are you trying to generate sales leads? Are you trying to nurture existing leads? Are you trying to, increase subscriptions to your newsletter or something else? Let us know what you're using email for primarily, and that'll help us try to focus the conversation on what's going to matter to you. And then once everybody's filled that out, I'll launch it so that everybody can see the results. Okay, last week's workshop we have posted on YouTube, so if you want to take a look at that, that's available using this link. Let me see if I can copy that. Oops, didn't mean to go forward there. I'm going to put that link in the chat as well, so you guys will have that. All right, there you go. That's last week's webinar. What we covered was email authentication. So there's been some changes. Some of you may be aware with what Google and Yahoo are doing to sort of emphasize that you have your DKIM and your SPF and your DMARC all set up just right, or just the way they like it. So make sure that you're on top of that. That's definitely important. And in fact, I'd heard a couple of horror stories just the last couple of days of people that have been emailing, big lists for years and everything's just fine. And then all of a sudden, starting in February when they made those changes, everything changed and started going to the junk box. Let's see. We also talked about just, using opens and clicks to optimize your email content, to let the data tell you what needs to be changed about your emails. Today, what we're going to try and cover is the difference between clicks and conversions. What I see a lot with our customers is that they kind of misunderstand what a click really means, and they think of it like it's a conversion, and it's not in most cases anyway. So we're going to talk about that and how to really kind of do the funnel math so that you can estimate what you should expect in terms of conversions or sales or whatever when you send out your emails. And then some tips and tricks on curating content. I see a lot of people struggling with that. It's hard to create good content. There's no question about that. It takes a lot of time and money, but it doesn't have to be hard. There's some tips that we've seen work really well, or tricks that we've seen work really well that we'll talk about. And then, like I mentioned before, we definitely want to address your questions. So send them in, email them to cklein@salesnexus.com if you have like an email you want to forward me or something like that we can all look at, or just type it into the chat here. Let's see. Let me just... Okay, I think you guys are already seeing the results of that poll. If you're not, please let me know. But looks like most people are generating leads with their emails. That's their intention. Some are nurturing leads or customers. So that's good. That's what Sales Nexus does all day, every day for all of our customers. So that's right in our wheelhouse. let's just dive into it here. Just to kind of, help you, I guess, to frame this discussion about clicks and conversions. The way I think about this, and in particular when we're talking about generating sales leads, it's a sales funnel that we're working with here. And we start with a big list of people at the top of the funnel, and we're trying to nurture them down through that funnel. And in a lot of cases for you guys, it'll be, somewhere in the bottom of that funnel, beyond just clicks and things like that, you're trying to get a salesperson on the phone with these people, right? That's kind of the bottom of the automated funnel anyway. And then the sales process picks up, right? But in what I did here by way of example is just, if you were driving signups to a newsletter or some kind of membership, so it could be a totally online transaction. There's no salesperson involved, right? You might send out your email, and then you're going to get, maybe a 3% click rate. And maybe that email isn't, directly asking for the membership sign up, but you're offering some kind of free download, a PDF or something, a guide to something or another. So you get 3% of the people that you sent the email to are going to download that thing. And then maybe you send them a follow-up email saying, hey, thanks for downloading our guide. What did you think? Give us your feedback. And oh, by the way, if you'd like to get more stuff like this, sign up to our membership, right? So then you're going to get 3% of those people click to sign up to the membership, right? So if you started with 10,000 people, you're down to 300 that downloaded the guide, and then 3% of that, or what's that, 9 that sign up to a membership, right? So you have to use that. You're multiplying 10,000 by 3% and by 3% again, right? So, the numbers get pretty small pretty fast, I guess is the point. Maybe more straightforward example, you might get 30% open rate, 3% click rate, 5% conversion rate on your page, right? And then that's the piece that I see people just kind of making really incorrect assumptions about. So if you're not a real experienced digital marketer, you may not, some of this may be a little bit Greek to you. So let me know if you have questions. But getting somebody to a landing page meaning the page that explains the offer and lets the person sign up, right? Your form, their sign up form. In our case, it would be the form where you sign up to start your Sales Nexus free trial, right? That's our landing page. Getting them to that page is one thing. Getting them to actually fill out the form is a whole other thing. And typical, what I have heard from digital marketing experts and stuff, is that landing page is going to get a 3 to 5% conversion rate. So if I'm sending to a list of 10,000 people and I get a 3% click rate, so I'm getting 300 people to the page, only 5% are going to actually fill out the form. So I only end up with 15 conversions, right? And it's that last little piece, adding that 5% in, that I see people missing a lot. So, why does this matter, right? Number one, you have to make sure your expectations are realistic, especially if you're going into your management to pitch that you're going to make this, send out this great offer to your customers or whatever. And, they're seeing dollar signs, right? Well, you need to let them know how many dollars to expect, right? And what's realistic. Otherwise, even if you have a great success, the numbers that come in, if you have a great success from an email marketing point of view, the dollars that come in might seem disappointing to the rest of the team, right? So you got to set everybody's expectations. But more importantly, this is why ongoing email sequences are so important, right? That 3% click rate, you can do better than that for sure. It depends on your list. It depends on what you're, selling or offering, the audience, all of that. We have some customers that get 20% click rates. So that number is going to be unique to you. And so your numbers could be a lot better. But either way, it's not 50%, right? So most of the people that you send the email to really don't even look at it, right? They don't look at it. They certainly don't click on it. And that's mostly not because you sent a bad email or something, or your offer's no good or whatever, right? It's mostly just because they were having a busy day and they didn't have time for your particular email, right? There's some days when, I get a lot of offers about new tech to, help automate the sales funnel and stuff like that, right? And there's some days when I just don't have time to look at them. I just delete them before I can see by the subject line what it is. I can tell by the from address. It's not somebody I know, some brand that I've already been keeping an eye on or something. So delete. I didn't even look at it, right? And that's what most people do. It doesn't mean they're not a good prospect. So if you keep sending them emails, you're going to end up, by hook or by crook, you're going to end up hitting them on one of those days when they have a little extra time, and maybe something happened to them yesterday that makes what you're offering them more important suddenly, right? On some level, this is not new, right? It's marketing or branding 101, right? By just staying in front of them over time, you're going to build up trust and recognition and all of those other things. But just going back to the numbers, if I have a list of 10,000 and I'm getting 300 people to click it every time I send an email, well, if I send it twice, now I've got 600 people to click it and I've got 30 conversions. So if I send it 3 times, I've got 900 and I've got 45 conversions, right? 900 clicks and 45 conversions. So it just multiplies, right? The only thing hard about that, with a platform like Sales Nexus, you can easily create a little automated sequence for sure. The only thing hard about that is generally you don't want those emails to be exactly the same. You don't want to send them the same thing over and over again. You want to try and get some variation in there. I guess my point here is make sure you're being realistic about not just how many people are going to click, because that's kind of, it's really pretty standard. If, 1 to 2 to 3%, if you're, it's a pretty cold list, you could do better if it's a warm, highly engaged list, right? But those numbers are pretty consistent from customer to customer, brand to brand, email to email. So you can kind of bank on those numbers, or at least a minimum of 1 or 2, 1 to 3%. But the conversion rate, that's the part that's going to be unique to you and your business and your landing page and the action that you're asking for. And you got to make sure and factor that in. There's not, not everybody's trying to get somebody to fill out a form on a landing page, right? You might be trying to get people to watch a video, or redirect people to another site where, like an affiliate relationship or referral relationship that you have or something like that. You might just be trying to get them to download an updated version of your software or a PDF or something. But you can get the stats on what's typical. Like, in other words, you can go to YouTube and you can look at the difference between, visits to the, to look at the video. I guess in YouTube, I don't remember the terminology they use exactly, but essentially There's views, meaning they looked at it, they looked at it. Doesn't mean they played it and watched the whole video. There's a different stat. I think they maybe call it engagement or something, that'll tell you how deep on average people go into the video before they leave. Well, you want to look at both of those numbers and come up with, typically when people come to this video, they're going to watch the first 5 minutes and leave. That's the average. So when we send out our email, we should expect that type of engagement, right? Your email's it's not likely to change the overall average engagement that you're seeing with that video. Or if you have a place on your website where people can download that PDF, you can look at Google Analytics and say, of all the people that come to this page, what percentage of them are downloading that PDF file? Well, when you send out your email, you need to expect the same rate of download or conversion. I hope that's making sense. On some level, this whole discussion is kind of not good news, right? It can when you're sort of putting together a campaign, it can dampen the expected results, right? But like I said before, by extending the campaign over time and repetition, that can actually increase the results. But also the other answer is you need a bigger list, right? If you're in your mind, you have a list of 10,000 today. Well, what if you had 50,000, right? That now your results are going to be 5 times bigger, right? So in a future workshop, we'll talk more about list building and so on. But, if anybody that really needs some answers for that right now, just reach out to our team. We have some answers built right into the Sales Nexus platform. Okay. I don't see any questions yet, but I'll keep an eye on that. Be sure and let me know if there's anything you have questions about. In terms of curating content, right? It's really the name of the game, right? If you can get good at this, you can create lots and lots of emails and lots of engagement with your audience, right? And they won't get tired of it because it's good stuff that they're glad to get, right? That's the goal. And, as anybody that's done email marketing for any period of time knows, it's hard to find and create good content. I see people making a couple of fundamental mistakes in trying to create content that I want to talk about a little bit. And then we'll talk about some easy answers. I guess the first problem I see most customers fall into is, it's your brand, it's your company, these are your customers. You want to make the right impression. You want the quality of that content to be up to your expectations, up to the expectations of your audience, right? You want it to make a good impression. And that can feel like a lot of pressure, right? Wow. Okay. Like for me, I'm not a graphic designer or anything like that. I'm not a great writer or anything like that. So somebody says, hey, Craig, what we need to send out is a guide to, building your list, a PDF or something. Could you write something like that? Wow. Oh man, who's got time for that? Right. And it just doesn't sound fun, so it just really creates a lot of friction in your email marketing plans, right? This creating of content piece. There are some great people out there that you could kind of farm the problem out to, of course, but that gets expensive. The point is you can either yourself or somebody on your team can spend a lot of time creating all this stuff, before you ever send out your first email, because you want to make sure it meets the right, expectations. Or you could pay a outside firm to do it for you. But either way, you're burning up a lot of time and money. And the problem is you don't even know what's going to work. I've been burned by that many times myself. Sometimes I will have an inspiration and I will think to myself, man, we need a PDF that says this, right? And boy, if we create that, we could send it out and everybody's going to love it. And then we send it out and it's crickets. That's happened. It's not fun. Not after spending a weekend writing and, all that stuff. So my point here is test and measure using your emails before you go and invest that kind of time. And there's a whole bunch of ways to do that. But the beauty of email marketing is I can send an email today and learn something about what people care about. And I can send a similar email with a subtle change to it tomorrow and learn if that change made a difference in, the open and click rates. And so by doing that very quickly, without spending a whole bunch of money at all, right? If you're paying for a platform like Sales Nexus already, you can send these emails all day, every day to a large extent, right? And it doesn't cost you an extra dime. So you can send emails with different offers, different headlines, different copy, etc. And by doing that, figure out what people want. What are they going to click on? What will get you the conversions, right? And when you figure that out, go build that. Go spend some money on that. Spend some time on that, right? Not the other way around. See my point? We're spending a bunch of time creating stuff and we're not even sure people want it, right? So there's a lot of ways to do that. I've seen some people that are super aggressive about it, where they'll create an email, offering, a sign up to an event or a webinar or even a product, right? And the product doesn't even exist yet, but they're just going to send out a couple thousand emails and see what kind of signups they get. And that tells them if they should build the product, right? I don't know. I'm not super comfortable with that, but I mean, you can go that far with it. The technique works. What I have here, just a couple of simpler, I think, ways to do it. You can, if you're in, it depends on the business you're in. If you're, in some kind of business that's construction or, you're doing something physical in the world, then photos and videos of what you do, that's just golden. People love that. It's the real world, right? It gives them a look at you and your work, kind of puts a face with a name sort of thing. And it's engaging, let me actually, I have some pictures here. Yeah. If you do backyard patios, we had a customer that does a lot of that here in Houston. That, that's all they did. They take a picture of every job and send out an email saying, hey, just thought you'd want to see our latest job. If you're interested in making your backyard look beautiful like this, click here, right? Super simple. They didn't have to go out of their way to create content, just very organic for them. And it worked really well. If you're in the construction business, commercial build outs or interior design or whatever, same idea. Every job you do, you can take not only pictures of the results, but pictures of the process, because people want to see that too, right? Or videos, I'll show you another example. This is a longtime customer of ours that, I could pick this email apart in a million different ways. It's too long. It's too technical. The graphics are, I don't even know what they're saying. But the amazing thing is it works like a charm for these guys. Their whole process is they have one of their engineers who about every 2 weeks will write a blog article about one of their products. And it's a, real high tech, airflow, ventilation, dealing with poisonous gases and that kind of stuff, that I don't even understand, that engineers get involved in, right? Their engineer will write a blog article about one of these products and how it really works at a very technical level. And then they send out an email essentially summarizing that blog article. The article's even longer than the email. And they don't have it, they have very few links even back to their website. But what they find is when they send out to all their list that they built up over the years of all these, potential customers, they send out this email about each blog article when it's published. And what they get is people replying back to the email saying, hey, could you please have a salesperson call me? I need to find out more about this product. And that's their sales funnel. That's how they generate leads. And they've been doing it for like 10 plus years. And it works consistently because this is, I don't know much about this space, but it's a highly technical product that these guys have some really strong expertise in. And when they share it with the right audience, people eat it up, right? So it can be that simple. You don't have to be a master email designer or writer. On some level, what they're doing, that's kind of the common theme here, is they're just being authentic and they're putting out there in the world what they're great at, right? And people respond to that. Let's see. I had another example that I wanted to talk about. If you're not in some industry that generates a lot of, that kind of content, pictures of your job or whatever, if that's just not your situation, don't worry. What I've seen a lot of people do is, number one, you can source images and pictures of things that, create the right impression in your customer's mind. Obviously, you can do that for free on the internet. But you can also do the same thing on YouTube. And especially for those of you who are using the system to generate sales leads, you're using your email marketing to generate sales leads. I've seen that work like gold. So the idea being, you don't need to create your own video. That's a lot of work and it takes a lot of time, like we talked about before, right? Go find a video on YouTube and use that, right? Because you'll know who clicked to watch the video, right? The email platform, Sales Nexus or whatever you're using, will tell you who opened it and who clicked on it, right? And that's all your salespeople need to know, right? The people that click to watch that video, especially if you're in, a B2B space where you kind of have a specialized product for a specialized audience, these are business people. They're not trying to kill time, right? So if they're clicking to watch some video, it's telling you they have an interest in the topic and the subject matter. And that's pick up the phone and call them, right? So it can be a video that somebody else produced, some industry expert or something like that. Maybe a talk at a TED talk, a talk at a trade show, all kinds of stuff like that. And then there's trade associations and government resources and other, resources in your industry that you may be aware of. They're publishing stuff all the time, and that's all fair game. If it's on the internet, you can point to it, right? Obviously, the value of creating your own content is it's projecting your brand, right? But like we talked about before, that can be time consuming and expensive. So like as an example here, if I'm in the, let me see if I can pull up this website here. Yeah. So if I'm a financial analyst, you know, um, we have a client that does this exact thing. You know, they'll mine the Federal Reserve site where they're publishing news all the time, right? And a couple of other sites, I don't know, Bloomberg or something like that, right? And they just find news items. Um, you know, so here's something about an enforcement action, right? So you take that news item, just the link to it, right? And then let me go back to my slides, and you write a little email like this. The Federal Reserve just announced blah, 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 whatever it is. There's an enforcement action about yada, yada. Please click here to book a convenient time for us to discuss this or to discuss how this will affect your investment strategy. And it works, you know? So the point with all this is you do not have to stop your email marketing experimentation and learning and optimization in order to go and create a bunch of content. In fact, I would argue that that's a mistake. You should probably just find something that you can take advantage of right off the shelf, something that you created in the past or something that exists out there in the ether already, and you use that to test with and see what people respond to, and then go create more of what they're really telling you they're anxious for. Okay, so just a reminder, if you have questions, just email. You can type them in the chat here. Rick, I see you've got a question here. I'm going to get to that in a sec. And then if you have emails or anything like that you want to have us take a look at, just email it over to me at cklein@salesnexus.com. Let's see. I'm just checking my email, see if anybody emailed anything in. I don't see anything. So let me go over to Sales Nexus, and Rick, I'll try to answer your question. What Rick asked for everybody else is, how do you see your results, what your results are when you send out an email broadcast? That is a great question, and good news, the answer is super simple. So in Sales Nexus, you would go up to campaigns and then view campaigns. And then that just brings you to this list of all your campaigns that you've done recently. It's going to be sorted by date, you know. And you'll see the stats. You can see here how many were sent, how many were opened, and how many were clicked, right? So that's a high level. Then you can drill in by hitting the view button there. And now you're going to see a more detailed report on everything. So how many opened, how many clicked, opt-outs, bounces, all of that. Now, a trick here for those of you that are using Sales Nexus and are using emails to generate sales leads. You can do similar things in other systems. In my experience, it's more of a trick, there's a few more steps, but basically, if I come here and I say, hey, you know what? Show me the list of people that clicked on that email, right? Well, like we talked about before, that depending on the email you send them, that can be them raising their hand and saying, hey, you should probably call me because I'm showing some pretty strong interest in what you're talking about here, right? In fact, for B2B sales lead generation, I wouldn't, my argument would be that your email should be written in that way that, people aren't going to click on them unless they're a good prospect, right? A simple way to sort of think about it is your email would be, do you have this problem? If so, click here, right? So, and the problem is whatever your product or service fixes. So here's my people that clicked, and I go, okay, let me take that list of 7 people, and I'm going to go over here and start calling them, right? in my CRM. So here's my 7 people. I click into the first one on the list. I click the little call link, and I'm on the phone with Abby, and I'm not calling her up and going, hey, Abby, this is Craig with Sales Nexus. We're a CRM and marketing automation, blah, blah, blah. And she's already hanging up on me, right? I don't have to do it that way because I know what she just looked at, right? I call her and I say, Abby, I'm calling because you took a look at our video about, the Federal Reserve's enforcement action. Can we set a time for us to talk more about your investment strategy, right? I know what she indicated interest in. I can use that in my script when I reach out to her. And it just works, especially if you make those calls quickly. If you wait a couple of days, Abby might not even remember that email, right? We all get so many. But man, if you use the system and the data that's in the system and make those calls same day, it works every time it's tried. So I highly recommend trying that, especially for those of you that are in the, the B2B world or the sales world. Let's see, Rick, I hope that answered your question. And let's see, anybody else? Any other questions that we can get into? One thing I'll jump into. Oh, wait a minute. Rick is asking a follow-up. Okay. Yeah, Rick. So Rick's asking about things that have changed that are causing our emails to go into spam or junk. So that's what we covered last Friday. But I can touch on that real quick. Let me real brief, just give me a sec. I got to pull up the right blog on our site here. Here we go. I'm going to put this blog article in the chat so that everybody can take a look at that and read more detail. But essentially, there's these authentication techniques that have been around in the email world forever and ever. DKIM, SPF, and DMARC. None of that's new. And it's always been a best practice to make sure you have those set up. Sorry, guys. I should have been showing that article. What's new is that Google and Yahoo have started emphasizing that a lot more. So in other words, in the past, maybe you didn't have DKIM or SPF or any of that stuff set up, but you're sending out your emails through like a MailChimp or something like that. And, Google doesn't put them in the inbox, right? Or I'm sorry, doesn't put them in the spam folder. They put them in the inbox. Well, now if you don't have your DKIM and your SPF and your DMARC all set up, you're much more likely to have those same emails go into the same list that may have been receiving your emails all along are now going into the spam folder. And I know this is happening. In fact, I was meeting with somebody earlier this morning that, just like I just said, sending to a list of about 100,000 people for the last 10 years, business people. And all of a sudden, what they've figured out is that the people that have a Gmail address are just not even seeing their emails anymore. They're going straight to spam. And it's because they don't have this authentication set up, and Google has changed the way they're using that in their algorithm. So it's really important in a couple of things that everybody can take advantage of here. First of all, if you go to, there's a lot of tools like this, but we use a lot MX Toolbox, mxtoolbox.com. And it has all these cool, tools that I think you can use for free, at least on a trial basis. But you just type in your domain here, so just type in one that I was looking at earlier, and you do DMARC lookup, and it comes back and it tells you, are you all good with your DMARC, right? And you see all the green check marks. We're all good, right? And I can do the same thing with my SPF and my DKIM and check all of those. If you have a problem, actually, MX Toolbox is pretty good at giving you some links here to tell you what to do. But at the end of the day, you're going to need to make those changes in your DNS. So that's where where you registered and sort of host the website. Typically, if you're like GoDaddy would be an example of a place where people often manage their DNS. So you have to go and make some entries there. If you're a Sales Nexus user, let me show you. You'll go to settings and email, and then set up DKIM. And here you put in your domain, and it gives you this little cryptic code that you copy. And then you click here, and that's going to open a little help article that'll show you exactly how to go into your DNS and where to put it, how to create the text record and everything, as well as how to set up your SPF and your DMARC. And then you click validate here, and it'll tell you if it's coming back green. So you don't even really need to use MX Toolbox. So Rick, back to your question here. Just either in Sales Nexus or using something like MX Toolbox, check and see if everything's coming up green. And if so, then you don't have a problem. If you're not sure about it, or you do have a problem, then, let us know. And, the support team can help you sort it out. Or you can just go here and read the help article that'll tell you how to go and update your DNS. But it's definitely something that everybody needs to make sure is getting taken care of. This customer I was talking about earlier, they had been using GoDaddy, and I don't know why, but GoDaddy didn't really, their interface didn't let them make the changes to the text records in their DNS in a way that Google and Yahoo recognize and appreciate. So it's like, I don't know why GoDaddy's doing that, but that's what's happening to a lot of people. Lists that they've been sending to for a long time, all of a sudden they're not getting the right results they used to. Okay. What else? Anybody else have any other questions? One thing that is kind of related to this, while we're talking about sort of declining rates of return on your email list, everybody also should definitely be taking a look at their engagement rate. That's something that within the last couple of years, Google for sure and Outlook have started using a lot more in deciding whether to send your email to the junk folder. Meaning, if you're repeatedly sending to people that just aren't opening or ever clicking on your emails, they're not showing any engagement, Google sees that, and they start to look at all of your emails as spam, not just to that one recipient, but to everyone. So you want to basically, anybody that's just not opening or clicking on your emails for several months, you want to take them off your list because they're damaging your overall delivery rate. So you need to keep an eye on that. You can also do what's called a cleanse in Sales Nexus. You can do it right in the platform. If you're not using Sales Nexus, there's lots of tools out there. You can just Google email cleanse or list cleanse or something. And let me see if I can show you that in Sales Nexus, just so everybody know what I'm talking about. If I go into add contacts, manage imported lists, so here's different lists that I've loaded into Sales Nexus, and I can select any list and say I want to cleanse it. And the system will come up. It's going to charge you 2 cents per record. And yeah, it's going to warn me here. It's going to cost me $4 to cleanse that list. But what this does is it's matching all your emails against a third-party database that we're integrated with. And it will validate that the email is deliverable. So you're just not going to have bounces, which can also negatively affect your delivery rate. It'll remove spam traps. It'll remove frequent complainers. So people that just always are marking email as spam, and other people that you just don't want to send to because they're going to damage your delivery rate. So it just removes those people from your list, or doesn't remove them from your list. It marks them in Sales Nexus as undeliverable so that we won't try to send to them, no matter what, even if you try. So that's worth doing. Remove the unengaged contacts and cleanse your list. And that's, it's just it's a house cleaning thing that you got to do periodically to keep your list healthy and keep your rates of return going up, right? Okay, well, I don't see any more questions coming in, so we'll wrap it up here. Want to just thank everybody for being here today and taking the time. You're going to get an email later on today that'll have a link to the recording. So if you want to go back and look at anything or share it with anybody, that'll be showing up in your email inbox later today. We'll also be putting it on YouTube and emailing it out to everybody. And we'll be here doing this again next Friday. So if there's specific topics that that we didn't talk about today or last week, but you want to definitely dive into, let me know. You can reach out to me at cklein@salesnexus.com and be happy to put it on the agenda for next time. Again, thanks everybody. Y'all have a great rest of the Friday afternoon and have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.